Hi, James.
Hey,
Yeah,
what's up, Kevin? How's the week?
good, good. Really busy, but I'm actually finishing up the Emergo Academy's Cardano Developer Professional, and I think almost the entire class is having problems with trying to get their Pluto script to work, or maybe like even understanding it.
Is
But yeah,
Would you say the biggest bottleneck is the step of going from the Plutus code to the Plutus script, or is it after that step using the Plutus script?
I think number one is the Haskell actually. So the syntax is already something these students struggle to learn. And then two, the concept of the UTXO is like I was trying to update the state of UTXO, and one of the things I noticed is I ended up just creating new UTXOs instead of consuming the previous ones. So things like that, it caught me off guard. But yeah, the other students, I don't think they're even close to making something that's consuming a UTXO. So it's very challenging.
Thank you. Keep me posted on that, and I'm really interested in hearing how those blockers evolve or if they change. What I really hope we can do here is build up some of that background conceptual understanding that makes it easier to then have a picture in people's minds of, okay, what am I doing when I'm building transactions over and over again? What does that UTXO management look like?
Yeah.
Because that for me, that's a prerequisite to understanding the Haskell syntax. There, you could go for any amount of time on that and still be learning it. But if at least you're doing that in the context of saying, okay, well, I understand how UTXOs work, and now one by one, I'm going to learn these Haskell functions. And that's the approach we're going to take.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Hey, everybody, what's up, Lucas? What's up, Amir, Uli, Roberto, Curtis?
All good.
Sam's.
James, I hope you can hear me now.
Hey, gotcha now. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Awesome.
just have to connect to them. So,
We got double Jaime here. At least one of them we can hear from. That's good. Hey, Roberto. Jaime, I actually had a question for you. I made a comment on your address submission in Canvas, and I noticed that it's a shorter address. Did you make that using Cardano CLI address build?
yeah, I did.
Good.
I didn't read your comment. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. Do you also have a browser-based wallet like Eternal or Nami set up?
Yes, I've been playing around with it,
Okay, good.
but I wanted to do it the hard way.
Yeah, good, good. Well, so and you can keep doing it the hard way actually if you want to. During today's live coding session, I want to distribute the first testnet course access tokens. And I'm happy to send one to the address you shared, but then you'll need to send it from there to your browser wallet.
Okay. No, I'll just send you. Is it okay if I do it via the chat? Send you a new address.
Yeah, just drop me another address now and I'll replace the one I have for you. That's fine. And anybody else, if you are here and you haven't yet done Canvas assignment 100.1, the way to finish that assignment is simply by sharing the testnet address of a browser-based wallet. You can use Eternal or Nami. And what I'm going to do today is send out tokens to everybody who has shared an address that way. And then starting next week, you'll start to see those tokens in action when we look at the front end template. So I'll check the assignment one more time before we build that transaction a little bit later. Hey, Juan. Hey, Krish.
Hey, James. Morning.
Morning.
Hi,
Uh,
James.
how you doing, Krish? Good afternoon.
Yeah. Uh, Over there, I think it's good afternoon. Over here, it's good evening right now. So I'm doing pretty well. So stuff's are just going in flow.
Thanks for joining us. Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, you cleared some big hurdles last week, and you deserve some time flowing. Good to hear. Okay, so the way we start every live coding session is just open space for your questions. So if anybody here has a conceptual question about something you've been wondering about, or specific technical questions about any of the tasks we had you doing, happy to hear those questions. And also for anybody here who needs to share their screen and walk through some errors you're finding, that's how we will start every time here at Live Coding. If anybody else who just wants to say hi, feel free to unmute. We are already recording, and I'll be able to post this lecture or this live coding session to Canvas as usual. How's it going? Roberto, what's up?
Hey, so I had an interesting thing happen. Apparently, when you update your Mac, your Nixos configuration gets messed up and it doesn't work anymore. So that was fun. I was not aware of that.
You upgraded the OS and all of the Nix settings were just wiped out.
I'm not sure they were wiped out. I was sort of reading about it, and it's sort of like they're just pointing to the wrong place. I think my Nix, I think everything was there. My Nix conf was there and everything. That just I couldn't. Nix shell was not found. My Nix store was still there. My partition was still there. I even had trouble getting rid of it. I looked online, and the only solution I could find was reinstalling it.
Damn. No, that sounds like some hoops to jump through. What's your status right now?
Well, I had a little bit of an issue removing Nix. I think I've done it too many times. I must have done something wrong. I had to pretty much back it up. I'm sort of downloading everything. I just reformatted the whole thing because I was running out of space anyway. So I just cleaned out the whole thing, and I'm sort of reinstalling everything again. I had a backup, so everything's safe. But yeah, I had to pretty much nuke everything.
All right, keep me posted, and if you're stuck, yeah, let me know. Thank you for your patience there. I actually had to wipe my Nix store this week. My hard drive was full, but one quick garbage collection command in Nix store, I suddenly had 30 gigs back. It's amazing how much space those Nix distributions can take up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I need to find ways to get better at it. It's really it seems very useful. It's hard to learn to use, I think.
The concepts, right? Like this is I was asking Trevin at the beginning, like how he's doing, and he was talking about in the Emergo group, it's hard because maybe there's some people still building up their concept of what a UTXO is. And if you're still building up that conceptual knowledge, then learning Haskell syntax at the same time is hard because it's just hard to point to, okay, what's what? Where do I have a conceptual deficit? And where is it that, I'm just wrapping my mind around Haskell syntax? So it's a lot to take on doing both those things at once. Nix is the same thing, right? There's like new concepts running under the hood that I'm like you. I'm like, yeah, I could tell this is helpful, but it's a lot to learn both syntax and high level at the same time. What when you upgraded the OS, what version were you going from and to?
I think it was just in Monterey, even not even like a whole thing. It was just I'm in version 12.5, and I must have been in some other, but it was still version 12. It wasn't like a huge one. It wasn't really changing, which was, but I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I updated a 2018 laptop from whatever OS it had to Monterey, and it's noticeably slower as well. I was surprised by that, thinking about rolling back. Krish, what's up?
Yeah, so I had some questions and some conceptual doubts also. So here, like when I started like Cabal Ripple in my Nix OS, like yesterday it was working very fine. I don't know what happened today. I just when I run that command, like it's been around like an hour or so, and it's still running. It's installing and compiling some things, and I don't know why it is doing that thing in that Plutus project one. So can you tell me something like it's actually eating up resources? Like currently you are also talking this Zoom meeting actually, and pop-up comes up like you are not giving sufficient amount of resources. So how to actually solve this thing, or should I wait for that command to actually finish?
An hour is on the upper limit of what it should take, but what's happening, and let me just confirm, you're running Cabal REPL inside of Nix shell, right?
Yes. If
Yeah.
you want, I can show you the screen also. It's currently running. I don't know
Yeah,
if it will.
let's see. I don't want to tax the computer too much, but let's take a look at what we see.
See, this is the command running, and I actually press enters at some point of time. Like after pressing enter, it starts again. See, so like even if I'm scrolling right now, so there is an set of lag. It's not actually scrolling, so that's an issue. Oh,
You're in the right spot. This looks good. And what do you see? This is all the way at the bottom right here. Yeah, it's not unusual for this step to take a while because it's doing two things. One, it's downloading packages over the internet, right? So you're subject to whatever your internet download speed is. And two, then it's building these packages as it downloads them, and that's going to eat up processing power. So it's not unusual the first time you run Cabal REPL for it to take a while. I think I'm fortunate to probably have a pretty fast internet connection, but this step still takes me 30 or 40 minutes on a regular basis, depending on the project. So let's see. I remember we waited a little extra while, and you got Nick Shell to finally open last week, and so maybe it's just a matter of waiting right here. But I don't see any
I'll
red
wait
flags
for
on
it.
your screen.
So I should not actually terminate this project, right? Like I should not terminate this command. I should keep it running like this only.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And I
And
just want to see how far down the list. You're pretty far down the list. Let's let that run for a little while longer.
You know, one thing that I usually do when I'm in those types of situations is open a process explorer, like in Windows in this case, and just keep an eye if you're. You can do Control Shift Escape, and at least you can keep an eye on whether the CPU is running, the memory is coming up, if it's already at 100%. It is a bit slow, apparently. So you did the shortcut key?
yes,
Yeah, it's dragging a lot. So you see your memory is at 99%, 98. So how much RAM do you have?
it's 8 GB. I
Yeah.
think it's 8
So
GB.
maybe I don't know if you can consider expanding that a bit, like really investing a couple of like I don't know how many currency you would use to do that, but maybe it would be good going forward because at currently to have just 8 maybe a bit short, especially for what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, in this situation, maybe you want to look, you know what swap file is in Windows?
What?
You may want to Google what a swap file is in Windows to make sure that when your computer runs out of physical RAM, it may extend it by using the hard drive a bit.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I'll look after it. Swap file, right?
Yeah, at least configure your Windows swap file. Take a look at your Windows swap file configurations.
Okay, I'll look after that. I actually didn't know that we can actually use our SSD also for our RAM sort of stuff. So that was one thing. Second, I sort of haven't conceptual doubt like how is this thing actually going about the wallets. And like you see, there are different sorts of wallets, right? I'll just open it. So for now, like I'm able to understand like at an conceptual level what is in lightweight, what's in light wallet. So, array, yes. So there is a lag. Excuse me for that. So for now, I'm able to understand like what's in light wallet. It's like the simple browser extension. For example, like I'm having one over here, right? I and full node wallet is like what we actually run on a PC, if I'm not wrong. And what's an hardware wallet, wallet tool, and all those sort of stuff. I'm not able to get this thing.
So to answer that question, we have to think about keys, okay? And keys can come from a few different places. So just first to compare running anything that takes mnemonics to what you've now seen on Cardano CLI. Even if you were not able to install Cardano CLI, if you watched the video from what's that, module 102, I show you how to create addresses just using key files generated by Cardano CLI. And then the third approach would be a hardware wallet. Okay, in all three cases, keys are being generated. And from keys, you can build addresses. All right, that's how Bitcoin works. That's how Cardano works. On the CLI, I think it's worth it for everybody to do it once, just so you can see, okay, this is a key pair, a public and a private key, also referred to as a verification key, which is public, and a signing key, which is private. You can create those keys. You can use the public key to sign messages, and you can build an address that's derived from that public key. That entire process is hidden from us when we use a wallet where we're using mnemonic words. Okay, so in Nami or Eternal or Daedalus, in all of those cases, you can type your words, and what's under the hood is an encrypted version of your key pair, essentially. Okay, there's a lot more going on under the hood than that. There's a couple of other libraries that you need to incorporate mnemonics in an app, or if you're building a wallet. But essentially, right, those mnemonic words are being used to represent a key pair from which we can derive addresses. And fun fact, like, right, those words, you can look at original Bitcoin improvement proposals where, and the history of where those words came from. We could talk about that if there's time. The hardware wallet uses, if you've ever used a hardware wallet, it has its own mnemonics. And then inside of that hardware wallet, you can generate a bunch of different types of keys. And on the two major hardware wallets, Trezor and Ledger, you can generate keys for a variety of different blockchains, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and more. I never know how deep to go. So Krish, how you doing with those ideas so far?
Like, I'll tell what I actually know about the wallet and what is this full node wallet and
Okay.
what I actually have an idea. I'll just tell that much. So basically, like if you're actually basically there are two types of actually wallets that we actually handle. One is your own personal wallet, and one is the custodial wallet, if I'm not wrong, right? And when it comes to your personal wallet, so personal wallet, you actually keep that particular phrase and everything secure towards yourself, and you are the sole authority owner. Whereas custodial wallets are one who, like, they are like company, like for example on Ethereum side we have Coinbase. They actually keep all your phrases and all those things and bank account detail, and they make that transaction happen. If we talk about a personal wallet where we keep our phrase, so that particular phrase is a private key, if I'm not wrong, which can be used to actually transfer a wallet from like one device to another. Or basically, it's used to actually gain that, it's actually retrieve that particular wallet access on that particular blockchain. This much I know about this thing. But when it comes onto the Cardano side, I've never actually seen a full node wallet on Ethereum, or might be I've not learned that thing.
Mhm.
And because in Ethereum side, I've just seen these two types of wallet. Like either you have a browser extension wallet or something like that. But a full node wallet is like you're actually running a part of blockchain, if I'm not wrong. So that's the thing. And in on the Ethereum side, when you actually need to perform some sort of node transaction, you actually make use of some APIs such as Infura or Alchemy, wherein you get the full node access and then you can perform those things. So this much I know.
So I was actually only talking about one of those three vectors, but you're right. There are three different things we have to consider: custodial versus non-custodial. We have to talk about what type of keys you're holding, and then we have to talk about full node versus light client, right? And so I was only talking about the nature of the keys you're holding. But let's rewind for just a moment, right? Custodial versus non-custodial, or like you said, we can think of a personal wallet as a non-custodial wallet. And of course, there's that first distinction. Yes, exchanges are custodial. All of the options I just described, whether we're talking about a browser-based wallet or anything with mnemonics like Daedalus, or Cardano CLI, where you're actually handling the key files themselves, or anything with a hardware wallet. All of those are non-custodial. You are holding your keys. You are the custodian of your keys. Then there's the full node versus light client vector. And two examples of full node wallets. One is Daedalus, which has Cardano node running under the hood, right? You can't see it when you open up the program Daedalus on your computer, but Cardano node is there and running in the background. Or you can run Cardano node directly, like we've encouraged you to do in this course, if you have the resources to do so. And we recognize that's not for everyone. That is resource intensive. And some folks have even been creating their own Linux cloud machines. Uli, thank you for the leadership on that. I don't know if anybody else on the call has done that, but certainly something that we want to support more people to do if that's the right option.
About that thing, I wanted to ask one thing. If you actually want to run a full node on like a PC, so currently on my laptop, like I'm having an 512 gigs of SSD drive. So, and also from that, I think I have only 30 GBs of space left. So can I use an external hard drive? Like I have an external 1 TB hard drive, probably half of thing. So can I use that to actually run? Or is it more of an computational power and the memory, you need both of the things?
You can run a Cardano node with an external hard drive connected to your computer. Yes. You just have to leave it on, right? It has to stay active in order to do that.
And if I switch it off sometime then?
Well, just whenever you start the node, you want to make sure that the hard drive is already enabled, right? 'Cause-
So if you're telling us to make a node for that thing, is it something like a miner on a Bitcoin chain, Bitcoin blockchain, something like that?
Well, okay, so that to your last point about running a full node on Bitcoin or Ethereum or Cardano, you can do it. You can run a full Bitcoin node, you can run a full Ethereum node, but as you're pointing out, it seems like doing so is relatively uncommon, right? And so you can, and there's stats out there about how many nodes are running on each blockchain. One of the reasons I chose to start learning Cardano development is I liked what I saw when it came to the accessibility of running a full node in the first place. As you can see, it's still not accessible to everybody. There are hard technical requirements that you have to have in order to do it. And still, my experience is that it's easier than running a full Ethereum node. And that ease matters because, like you said, the harder it is to run a full node on any network, the more we're going to end up relying on third-party infrastructure providers. And if we have to rely on those providers anyway, well, what was the point of all the effort that went into building the ledger layer, right? The blockchain protocol layer. So that's a big deal when it comes to Cardano. It's still not accessible to everyone, but it's a degree more accessible. And to anybody who has the computing resources, hopefully you're learning what it takes to get that node up and running. And by the way, once you can run a node, it's only a few additional steps to learn how to run a state pool, right? Their steps, the requirements of those steps is that you have to be extremely aware of what you're doing and pay attention to the security of the steps along the way. But if you can run a node, again, you're at least halfway there to running a state pool. Conceptually, how's everybody else doing with these ideas of the types of wallets, those different vectors, custodial versus non-custodial, full node versus light client, and how you're holding your keys? Any questions about those variables? Amir, sorry about the mic issue, but just speak up in the chat if there's anything that you want to make sure we look at today.
I don't know if you would like to comment on all the steps that we take on building a transaction, like getting the protocol parameters, saving them to JSON, and determining the time to live, drop the transaction, build the raw transaction, like all that. I don't know what I understand what we're doing in each of the steps. Is there something you want to add, as in why is it this cumbersome, or why we take it one step at a time?
Okay, so this is such a key question. And what I'm hearing is, you notice that it can be cumbersome to build transactions with Cardano CLI. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the reason we start with that in this course is to really make sure that people are getting the conceptual understanding of what goes into building a transaction, because soon we're going to start building transactions in a front-end template with some JavaScript libraries that take care of these steps for us. And what we really want you to have is that conceptual understanding before we start automating some of these transaction building tasks. For example, grabbing the protocol parameters, that's the same command every time, right? And there's a block frost endpoint that does that. There's a Cardano CLI command that does that. And there's other endpoints, for example, like Koios, which we can look at as we start building transactions, where you query those parameters, right? That's just a piece that has to be done. Anybody who's ever built a wallet, you automate that step. Now, a front-end JavaScript library is not the only way to automate the building of transactions. Plenty of developers use Cardano CLI, and they write bash scripts, and then they create a server that runs those scripts to build transactions. And so hopefully you're seeing that, okay, if I build a transaction, what do I have to do? Obviously, grab the protocol parameters. Also, query the address from which UTXOs are going to be sent. Okay, get the hash of those UTXOs. Use those as inputs. Automating that step is something that, once again, everybody who's ever built a dApp or a wallet has to do that. And now we get into a whole other question about coin selection. And that's something we're also going to cover in this course. Which UTXOs do I pick? Because when I do it by hand, okay, I can look at them. I can choose the ones that I want by looking at them, but that's not automated. That's not sustainable. And so piece by piece, what we're going to do is we're going to look at these repetitive tasks, think about what is being repeated when we build those transactions, and then that's going to help us understand what we have to automate piece by piece. And I'd like to show you a transaction today and kind of think through, where those chances for efficiency would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Krish, what do you think?
No, I also wanted to ask something related to that transaction only. So, like, are you going to show some transaction, then only I'll ask my doubt, or should I ask my doubt first?
I missed the last part. Say it again.
So I'm just saying that I had a question regarding transactions. So basically, I was just seeing, like, for that time that command was running, I was just going through some transactions on this website called as explore.cardano.testnet.iohkdev.io. So I just opened a transaction and just saw that how the transaction is actually happening, and it seems pretty different as compared to the Ethereum transactions, like which we see on Etherscan. And like, I'm not able to actually understand some of the parts because there are no nouns over here, and I just see that there is a time at what time this transaction is done, the transaction ID, and the addresses of the two transaction, and just the total output. Like, is it the only thing that we need in Cardano transaction? Because in Ethereum transaction you get a lot of details over there, and you can actually see those contracts also, like what is actually happening or which function was actually executed. Can we see that over here also? Or, like, I basically wanted to understand, like, how to actually understand or read this particular transaction on this particular website.
Good. As you may have heard, the accounting model on Ethereum and Cardano are fundamentally different from each other. And so the way we explore each blockchain, you're right, is going to look fundamentally different. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to show you a multi-output transaction just to help us start to think about what it means to build a transaction. We can add a little bit to it. We can add some native assets and we can add some metadata. And anybody who hasn't started module 201, this will give you a little bit of a preview about some of the basic things that are covered at the start of that module. And we're even going to touch on some topics that you'll go deeper into in modules 202 and 203 which we'll roll out next week. And then Krish, if we build a transaction together, and then we go to the Blockchain Explorer and look at it together, let's do our best to interpret everything we see. And then after we do that, I'd like to look at some specifics with you of an example of a detail that you can see on Ethereum. And let's start working by example by saying, okay, well, here's what it looks like on Ethereum. What does something similar look like on Cardano? How's that sound?
Yes, we can do that.
And this will be our first, one of our first live demos here. And the way it works is stop me anytime. Okay, anytime somebody's presenting, I hope that you have questions. Uli, what's up?
Hi, yeah, I have a question regarding the Game Changer wallet. There was a video where you imported a seed phrase into the Game Changer wallet, and I have a problem. Is there a special syntax where I have to put in the seed? Let me present this. Wait, I have to show you. Wait, whoops. Oh my God, I have to there is the security issues in the, sorry. I have to restart Zoom. Just a second.
We'll wait for you. Been there. I was there yesterday. Zoom. Oh, that's the problem.
So I try again. Yes. So, okay. So I have created these wallets here. Two wallets here with key and address and privacy key, and I have here this the seed phrase here created for the testnet wallet, and I try to import these into this Game Changer wallet. You see the Game Changer on the screen?
I can still see Visual Studio Code.
Okay, so I have to put it down the other monitor. So no.
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay. So I want to import. Set mnemonic. I said agree, continue. Yes, and then I give the mnemonic. Do I have to give it this way, or is there another syntax? Or
that looks right.
Okay, and then I give here some password. Okay. What is that? Oh, okay. But my ADA, my T ADA is not, I can't see the T ADA here. So I have tried different, I have the two wallets, I tried with both, and I have tried multiple times here. But the ADA that I have in this wallet, when I there is time on the screen. So this is my transaction here. It's not big. Did it work? No.
You'll
So
need to set the node socket variable.
yeah, I try. Yeah, that's a little bit of problem at the moment because sometimes it works, you see, and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I have to restart. I created a daemon for that, and sometimes it connects and sometimes not. And so, nah, it's a little bit, but we'll find out. So there are those 1000 T ADAs with the 5 transactions, so 920 ADAs plus the 5 transactions that I put on the second wallet, but they are not, I cannot, with that seed phrase, I'm not coming to the same wallet.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yes. How did you generate those seed words?
With Cardano address, I think I created here the script.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So this is you, and for anybody who's looking at this is an optional extension. Thanks for jumping into this, right? So there's another library called Cardano address that we haven't even touched, that, as you can see, generates a recovery phrase. Okay, so we have those words. And then those words are used to generate the private key, right? And then from there, we should be able to, there it is, yeah, on line 20, create the payment key from the signing key. And then finally generate
the wallet ID,
right.
The hash, and the other keys. Then yes, all the keys that are inside. Can you
Now I have to review. I haven't used Cardano address in like 8 months, so what I can't remember is how it derives addresses, and so it looks like this is deriving one possible address from these mnemonics, but one set of mnemonics can actually be used to create a set of addresses. And so
you can change it, yes.
Let's do this.
But it should
let's do this. The address that shows the 1000 or so test ADA, can you copy that address and look it up on testnet Cardano scan?
Yes, this is the address here. So
this address, great.
This address, yes, and this is the address Q4 QK0, and this must be what is not?
Let's go.
That's the problem when you're on an external server.
I know this is, you're going above and beyond here. This is great. This is great. Can you, but just go to a web browser and let's go to testnet.cardano scan and just search for that address right there.
Yeah, okay. Also those zoom. The zoom menu is always for the address.
Oh.
So Cardano scan IO, but not here, but testnet, huh? So address inside. This is that. Here I have the 934,
Right.
and that is the what I sent to the other wallet here.
Right. So we can see that. Now back over in Game Changer. Right. Keep this tab open and we'll switch over to the Game Changer tab. Copy the address of this wallet. I can see, you see the little copy button right there? Yeah. All right, let's search for that address on Cardano Scan. Nothing, but scroll down. And you see that button that says view all addresses? Click on that one. No, they're not related. Okay.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
I try the same with Daedalus. I have a Daedalus wallet here, testnet
okay.
wallet, so I try to import it here and looks if it works. And so maybe it's a problem with Game Changer.
No, this
I
is
don't
okay.
know.
No, I see what's happening. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So right here, you see you have this stake key associated with the address that you just searched, right?
Yeah.
Go back to the previous address that was showing the balance. And this one, you see how it says controlled stake key? The address does not contain any stake key. So what we're seeing here is, okay, you've got these mnemonics. Those mnemonics were used one way by the Cardano address on the command line, and what it yielded was a shorter address. You might notice that address, right, it's shorter because it doesn't have any staking credentials attached to it. Game Changer is taking those same credentials, those same mnemonics, and it's building an address also with staking credentials built along the way. And I've never done this before to kind of see that, okay, right, that basic address, some tools call it your enterprise address. I'm not sure why they call it that, if anybody does speak up. But that there's not a relationship recognized by the blockchain explorer. And since Game Changer is using a lot of the same tools to report on what's in a wallet, it's seeing the same thing. And so we're not seeing the UTXOs connected to the basic or the enterprise address that we're seeing on anything that has staking keys attached to it.
Okay, so maybe there's another possibility to create the address with the staking.
There is, and I would need to do a little research to see what role the mnemonics play in generating the staking key pair. Because when from the command line, when you build an address, you would include the verification key for both the wallet, both the payment keys and the staking keys, and those two combined give you the address with staking credentials. Enterprise address is not generated using staking key. Right, it's not included. And yeah, Game Changer this week, especially on testnet, has been experiencing bugs. We should have led off with this fact. So
we have all bugs this week, I think.
Oh, it's been a crazy week in Cardano development. You know, you could argue that we just shouldn't start a course in the middle of summer when all these things are happening. But hey, we are here for the adventure. And so yeah, testnet broke on Monday. And a lot of people were dealing with that. There were some bugs that Plutus developers recognized last week on the Babbage era testnet. So here we are in real time, kind of confronting these things. And it's so important for everybody here to recognize that anyone building on Cardano is feeling this pain right now. It's not, it really isn't you. It's all of us. Okay. So I want that to come through loud and clear. This is kind of a wild moment to be learning Plutus in the first place, because it's changing day to day. And so I had to scramble to update my node to 135.2 yesterday, but on the laptop that I'm using to record these videos, I've been using the binaries for the release of Cardano node, and those binaries are not up to date yet, so I can't run the node on that computer without pulling from source, right? So we're all in it. And the game changer piece, get anybody, if Sam, if you got that game changer error about WebSocket, that's because Dandelion testnet, which Game Changer is built on, had to be restarted earlier this week. And so if you were seeing errors then, that's why. Uli, back to these keys. One thing you can do is just send yourself, right, to the address that you now have loaded into Game Changer. You can just send from Cardano CLI to that address to have some of those assets and then follow along. Or if you want to go deeper, try to figure out how the staking credentials are being generated in Cardano
I think
Wallet.
I'll try this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I wish I could be more helpful with that one.
No, I don't know if there's a problem with the seed phrase for the. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let me know what you figure out about the inner workings of Cardano Wallet. I need to go play with that one again.
Yeah. Okay.
Krish, what do you think?
Yeah, so about that transaction thing, so by the time you were actually discussing, I performed one transaction. It's a simple account-to-account transaction between two Cardano wallets and two Ethereum-based wallets, right, on MetaMask.
Awesome.
And if I can show, if you'll allow me to show the screen, and if you can explain me like what's actually happening, because I've tried to understand stuff from the UTXO point of view and the account model point of view, but still some things I'm not able to understand.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Shit. So can you hear me right now?
Yep.
So yesterday, the error that I was facing, I'll talk about that also. I think yesterday the Cardano faucet was actually not running. So actually I submitted 4 submissions onto it. And today morning I saw like all the 4 submissions got accepted. I don't know why, but today I got like 4,000 ADA. I'll return it back to that faucet because I think it's not too good. So what I actually have over here is that you can see there's an PBL demo. This is my main wallet and this is user 1. Wait. Yes, so I have basically transferred 10 ADA from this wallet to this wallet to show a transaction over here. This is the first transaction and you can see the transaction hash over here. So receiving time 6 minutes ago. This epoch is this thing, block number is this, confirmation address is this, transaction hash is this. From this, it uses 1000 ADA from the receiver side to 10 ADA on the receiver side and 99 this ADA. So basically, I'm imagining an UTXO model where you have a transaction being executed and you actually, there's no account based model. So you basically pass those unspent transaction outputs only into that particular transaction. So over here, the 1000 ADA was this unspent transaction output, if I'm not wrong, which was passed into this transaction. And the output for that transaction was 3 things. One was the 10 ADA to the receiver who actually wants, then 989 ADA for that who was actually performing that transaction. He actually received that change, and there was some amount of transaction fee also cut. This is the it in a Cardano transaction. Nothing more than this.
Right.
Right. So we do not have anything. Similarly, if we'll take something from an MetaMask account, so I had an account 1 which had 14 Rinky by ETH. This is on Rinky by testnet ETH scan. and on account 2 I was having something like 0.09 something, and I transferred 10 ETH from this account to this account, and you can see the transaction that actually happened over here. And if we actually see the transaction thing, if this thing is actually like, you can keep this thing here, right? So you see there are bunch of transactions actually happening, and I actually wanted to compare like which is better or how to actually compute like in future also, like if we actually want to query a blockchain data also, like how will we query, like it depends upon these things also, right? So over here, let's say we have the same thing, we have the transaction hash, but over here it's an hexadecimal value, whereas when I compare over here it's also an hexadecimal value, but it's like phrase is a bit different. Why is that? So my first question is this thing.
I'm not
Because
sure. Yeah, they're both right. It's represented by a hexadecimal string.
yes,
That's
so
right.
this thing is not starting with 0x and
Oh, right. Okay, right. Because on Ethereum, transactions and addresses start with 0x. It's like a country code on a phone number, right?
okay.
Yeah.
So Cardano does not have anything like that.
It has a ADDR prefix on addresses, and I'm not sure if there's a prefix on the
On
transaction hash.
addresses, it does have, like you can see
Exactly.
ADDR test, but
Exactly. You got a
there's
prefix
nothing
on every
on.
address. But this goes fundamentally, this is a result of a fundamental difference, right? So every data object on Ethereum has this OX on it, versus on Cardano, well, yeah, we want to have this country code or blockchain code at the start of the address, but what the transaction hash starts with, it 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 does, right, it doesn't have that chain identifier, and the locations of these UTXOs are at the protocol layer connected to the addresses. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a deeper conceptual reason as to why these transaction IDs are formatted the way they are. But I would need to do some more reading to understand the exact.
And over here, we
Yeah,
see to actually, like over here, we on the Rinky by scan, after
right.
the transaction hash, you actually get the block thing and the timestamp over here.
Yeah,
And we actually don't see anything such as timestamp. We see an epoch. I am not very sure what is this epoch, and we see a block on what
okay.
this particular block was mined. What is this thing, and where can we actually, we have the timestamp over here,
Yeah.
but what is this epoch actually denoting over here?
So blockchain time is recorded in epochs, which is 5
Yes,
days on mainnet. Does anybody know what an epoch is on testnet right now? It might be 3 days.
follows the Unix time thing, right?
Right. Okay. So you've got your timestamp, which is available on both Ethereum and on Cardano. And you've got a block number, which is
This
identified on both. Yeah, right. So, right, you've got a timestamp. I don't see any difference between these. In both cases, I see a timestamp, I see a block number, and on top of that, we've got the epoch identified, because that's how Cardano works, right? We count in epochs and in total blocks.
okay.
Now,
And
I do think just one thing. I don't like this official Cardano Explorer site. It's not well supported by IOHK, and it doesn't show as much information as you might see. So copy that transaction ID and bring it over to testnet.cardanoscan, because I think Cardanoscan is better at presenting this information. One of the things I like better here is down below. you can actually see those inputs and outputs. And it came from this UTXO, and it created two new UTXOs to these two different addresses.
If it actually creates two UTXOs, like how does an account keep and track like how many UTXOs does this particular account hold?
There's no such thing as an account on Cardano. So that's another fundamental difference between Ethereum and Cardano.
But
What we have, right? A wallet address can hold a set of UTXOs. And we can look at the sum of all of the ADA in those UTXOs, or the sum of any number of other native assets in those UTXOs.
Canada controlling stake. We have the transaction, we have the outputs. Okay, so this is one thing. And as we actually say that in a particular transaction, the amount that's being given as input, the total input should be equivalent to total output.
Right.
So over here, actually, like if you come and see over here, like we see there's a total output difference. Don't we include the transaction fee in the total output?
So if you add the output to the transaction fee, you get exactly 1,000 ADA.
But okay, like this thing is done.
Mm.
Like I am not actually able to fundamentally I'm not able to actually fundamentally understand like how is a wallet keeping a track of the number of UTXOs? Like, is it having a database, or how is it actually connecting? Like, you should have something or some sort of thing like you should keep in track of UTXO. You just can't keep having many UTXOs.
Well, okay, so two things. Those are, first of all, anytime you build a wallet, the first thing you have to think about is how is it going to manage UTXOs? And however, I hear you saying that you can't keep track of UTXOs like that. That's exactly what you must do to build on Cardano. Okay, that is how this protocol is built, and that part is not up for debate, right? This is fundamentally how the protocol works. And if you want to use it, UTXO management is what you have to understand. Now, you're going to start building tools in a front-end template as early as next week when we release that module. But you can already play with the mesh playground tool that we'll be using in that course. Have you had a chance to see that link yet?
Which one?
Maybe not here. Let me give you this link right here. And I'd like you to mess with this for us for just a second. So open up, I just put it in the Zoom chat here. Open up this mesh.martify.io link. Okay, now click on wallet at the top of the page. And we're going to use this tool next week, okay? You're going to start building with this tool next week. But here's a preview. Click on wallet at the top of the page. Connect it. And then you can see a bunch of JavaScript functions here. And you can actually run these snippets right here in the page. So for example, if you scroll down a bit farther, here's this one, run that one, get UTXOs. And here it is. Okay, so this wallet only has one UTXO with 10 ADA in it. No surprise. You just created that UTXO, right? But that
Yes.
array of objects, it could be long. You could have 100 UTXOs in a wallet, and
If
many
I connect my
wallets will.
previous wallet,
Yeah, do it.
if I want to connect.
Yep. Well, make sure you switch that NAMI wallet first. I didn't see you change it there.
If I'll switch from here only, it will work, right?
Yeah.
Like you can see, this has a little bit of transactions.
Right.
So probably.
Hey, this tool is super cool.
Isn't this great?
It's awesome.
Yeah. How anybody who's still in this course after the first 2 weeks, that's when the fun starts, right? Setting up Nix is such a drag, but we're about to get into the really fun part. And for anybody here or watching later who is struggling in any way with the Node or with Plutus apps, I'll keep sharing this message. If you can't get those things running, it's okay, because there's still a lot we can do just playing around on the front end with tools like Game Changer and building a project with Mesh, as we're going to start to do on Monday. Okay, this is what we're getting into, but I promise you, if you do have the ability to set up a node and build some transactions with Cardano CLI, what we're doing here is going to make even more sense. And that's why we're going to show you things with CLI first. And even if you don't have the node running locally, I recommend just watching those videos once, just to really push yourself to think about what's happening at the protocol level. Because the better you understand that, the more amazing these tools right here are going to be, right? The more sense they're going to make. And the easier time you're going to have starting to think architecturally about what you have to do in order to send a transaction or interact with a contract.
Get network ID is 0. So for
Right.
testnet, is the network ID 0?
That's right.
And for mainnet, it would be something 1.
Yeah, it's 1.
Enabled true. Available wallet NAMI. Oh, so it actually tracks on what all things you have created wallet, right?
Yeah, so if you had an Eternal wallet in this browser, you'd be able to connect. That button would change, right? This is just.
I have an Eternal wallet, but it's okay. If I've connected with NAMI, that's why it's showing over here. Okay. So
If you
basically,
had
where
Eternal
is
in
it?
this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So from where actually it's querying this particular data?
That's coming from the wallet, right? So this is just using okay, so every browser wallet exposes some similar endpoints, okay? And this is all part of CIP. Is that 30, the wallet standards? I'm pretty sure it's CIP 30, but correct me on that if I'm wrong. So all wallets are going to expose certain functions, for example, like get balance, okay? And
What is this balance? Is it
well,
some hexadecimal value only?
there you go. So we're going to have to learn how to use that, right?
Get unused address. What is this particular?
This matters in an HD wallet like Eternal that is deriving multiple addresses from the same set of keys. NAMI only generates a single address.
Get reward address. So basically, this particular tool, we can use this mesh playground, or is it some sort of front end tool? We can use it on front end side to actually interact with interact with wallet. We can get details regarding wallet only. But if we actually need to interact with blockchain, we need to write that particular DIX code and Haskell stuff, and then only we can make this thing working out.
Almost. I'm going to revise what you just said a little bit. We can interact with the wallet, as you're seeing right here. Separately from that, yes, we can write Plutus to think about smart contracts. Separate from that, there's a whole query layer. And when we talk, for example, about Dandelion, that's what we're talking about. Blockfrost, Dandelion, Koios, and other tools can be used to get on-chain information, which is required for building certain transactions. And so next week, when we roll out the front-end template for the first time, you're going to see some of these basic mesh functions in action. And you're also going to see some very basic blockchain queries that use GraphQL served by Dandelion to get information. And a dApp is going to require all three of those things: information about the user's wallet, information about the blockchain, the history of the blockchain through a variety of queries, and if you're talking about a smart contract, a Plutus script in some way. And we're going to cover all three of those things and how they interact with each other as we move through this course.
Okay, so probably we should take that thing step by step only. So another thing that I actually like, just one last question, because I think I'm having another thing actually rolling out right now. So you see over here, like this is a very basic thing. Like I was learning on the Ethereum side only. Like, sorry if you actually feel like, is it okay like if I compare with Ethereum over here, because I tend to actually compare in that sense. Okay, so basically I know on the Ethereum side to actually interact with blockchain on JavaScript side, you might have heard about libraries like Ethers.js and Web3.js, right? For Python also we have Web3.py. So I was actually like just playing around with Web3.py, actually was learning this thing. So over here, like you can see, this is a very small snippet. We actually have a configuration file. We have saved our API URL and keys, and we are actually creating an Web3 sort of instance of that particular provider. So Infura is a provider which provides us a full node. So technically what you are trying to say, that set up a full node, we actually get a full node from Infura as an API service. So do we have any API service in Cardano like this? First question.
Yes, we have Blockfrost, and we have, and every light wallet you look at, every dApp you use has to interact with a node somewhere, right? And so Blockfrost is the leading centralized provider of those services. Dandelion is an example of a project that's trying to distribute those necessary services. And then many dApp builders will host their own node somewhere, because yes, you need one, right? You must have access to a node in order to be able to submit transactions.
Yes. So basically, like if you see on this particular side, Ethereum side, we can actually query like certain sort of data. Like I'm trying to query first the block number of the HTTP provider. I have a wallet, this is my current Ethereum wallet. I'm trying to get its balance and trying to convert it. Like you get in standard in wave format, you convert it into Ether, and then you print the wallet. And I'm using one transaction to actually see how the transaction output actually comes. So using such libraries, like we can actually query data from blockchain in order to print it out. Let's say if I want to, like my target was to make a good looking Etherscan clone, something like that as a project, right? And let me move this thing a little bit up. Shit. Sorry for that laggy screen, I think.
You're good.
So you see, like I'm able to query like certain data from blockchain, and I'm able to actually understand also like how is it able to query data from blockchain. Like particularly this transaction hash, you actually go onto that blockchain, onto that block number, you get that transaction hash, and you get this particular metadata which is being actually printed out. For
Right.
the balance also, like you can go to that particular wallet and you can get. Over here, we have an account-based model. So we are actually able to get a fixed number. Currently, it shows 0 because I have no real Ether right now in my wallet. But take an instance of an Web3 Pi, we have something like this Python library or JavaScript library for Cardano thing. How is it querying that data? Like you showed over there in onto that mesh playground. So that mesh playground was actually able to query data. On what basis, on what logic is it actually querying data? If you're saying if you are not keeping in track of UTXOs because of security purpose, that's how the thing actually revolves around. So fundamentally, like you need to have something to query data. Like you cannot go on checking the whole blockchain one by one. That will take like an end of time. That's illogical, right? So how is it actually doing that logic? I'm basically trying to understand. Nothing else. Like after the technical matters, I can learn afterwards.
Right.
Just the logical thing I wanted to know.
Well, it's impossible to answer your whole question in the next 16 minutes, but I'm going to start. You ready? Everything that you just showed us, of course, is possible on Cardano. Understanding it is different. And this is the blessing and the curse of Ethereum. It's built on the account-based model, which means that it's easier for the brains of people born within the last 200 years to understand than the UTXO model, right? Because our world has been running on an account-based model for a long time. Ethereum is very user-friendly to anybody who comes from the current financial paradigm. That's part of why it's built that way. Now, Bitcoin and Cardano are built on the UTXO model. So of course, there's some things we have to think about. And of course, you need to learn how to look at current ledger information and look at ledger history in order to get all of the same functionality that you just shared with us. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this course. We're going to do it step by step. We're doing it first by helping people understand UTXOs. And that's what I want to look at right now. Starting Monday, you're going to see for your first time some GraphQL queries that pull information from the blockchain and can get you any other information you might need to sufficiently build a transaction. But let's start just by looking at, I want to show this in Game Changer first. We're going to look at metadata next week. This is an example of an on-chain query, but let me jump over to Game Changer here. So anybody who's played with this, and Krish, I'm not going to be able to answer all of your question in the next few minutes, but I promise that that's where we are going. Okay, it's going to take maybe 2 weeks to answer your question appropriately. And so
Yeah,
let's
I just know,
step by
like,
step.
of course, you don't need to answer everything.
I got
but
you. I got you.
Can give me a brief idea.
Okay. So in module 201, if you haven't watched it yet, sorry. In module 201, I show how to mint these tokens. And my next intention is to send one PPBL summer 2022 token to everybody who has shared their address in Canvas. That's this assignment right here. Okay. Oh, it looks like a few more people just got those in. So I have to add a few more addresses to my list. All right. But just to start thinking about this, you can tinker with Game Changer. There is a smart send feature that allows you to drop one address in here. But really, I don't want to do that. I have like 30 different addresses I need to send assets to. And so I want a shortcut. And in the Game Changer playground, you can have a lot of fun just starting to learn about how Cardano works just by playing with these different demos. So I'm clicking on the demos menu here. This is also outlined in module 201. There's a whole bunch of different demos. I want to look at this split tokens demo. So what we can see here is a JSON representation of building a transaction. And so Adriano and the Game Changer team have done a really good job showing us in a format that front-end developers are going to be pretty familiar with, a way to represent a set of outputs and to add other information, and the step of, okay, well, how is this taken and turned into an actual output? That's abstracted from us, right? This is a nice kind of user-friendly way that I can start thinking about what to automate. And if you can imagine, you can automate building a set of objects like we see here, right? Address is our key. The value is an array of Cardano values that we want to send. You can have just one, like a minimum of 1 ADA. You could have a lot of ADA, or you could have some ADA and some other assets. And so I could build this transaction this way. I could go, okay, wait a minute, what's the policy ID of that token I wanted to send? Here it is. What's its asset ID? Well, that's a concatenation of the policy ID and then the hex representation of our token name. But I think I can just get away with this policy ID right here. Let's go back to the playground. Let's go back to that split example. And I could say, yeah, policy ID is that. And the asset name was PBL summer 22. And suppose I just want to send one of those with 1 ADA to a whole bunch of people. I could get this little template right here to the point where I'm happy with it. This block, stick a comma on there before I forget. And then I could go through and I could just make a whole bunch of copies of this. Right? Now, immediately I'm getting an error because I have the same key for each of these, but what I can go through and do is I can just go, I'm pulling this from off the screen. I can grab a bunch of different addresses. There's a unique one. There's a unique one. There's a unique one. Okay, now they're all unique, so I'm not seeing an error. I can see that my syntax is okay, and I could keep going. Even this feels kind of exhausting to me, right? Even doing that much work 25 times feels like more than I really feel like repeating. So I'm actually not going to do it this way. Now I want to show you a slightly less abstract way of looking at the same thing. I want to do this, but on Cardano CLI, okay? And before I switch over to that, one more thing to show you. There's also a metadata example here that shows you in Game Changer how to add metadata to a transaction. And over the next 2 weeks, you're going to see first how to add metadata to any transaction you want. And you're going to see how to represent that metadata on a front end. But for now, I just want you to know this is here. You can copy and paste things to combine different demos. For example, I could take this metadata example right here, and I could bring that into a multi-output, and I could put the metadata above the outputs, and you can see my syntax is still okay. So I could send something like this. When you're ready, you can always preview this is the point where you would type your password and it'll tell you if everything is working. I recommend trying that. But instead, let's see what this would look like on Cardano CLI. I grabbed a list of addresses from the assignments that people posted. And I'm saving each of these, right? I before we started this meeting, I just went through and just added a variable name to the beginning of each of these, okay? Hopefully you can see that this step could be automated. If you know anything about Bash, you know that we could just run a loop to add as many variables as we want, okay? This would be even easier in JavaScript or Python. And people have built those libraries, okay? But up here, this is really what we have to look through. So I've got Cardano CLI transaction build. That should look familiar. I'm going to specify the era and the network I'm working on. And then I need to go find a couple of UTXOs. Yeah, I should have these variables already. I've saved sender is an address that I built in one of the earlier modules. And I also have testnet as that little string right there. It's a little bigger. So I should be able to write Cardano CLI, query the UTXOs on testnet at address sender. And here, right, here's our low-level representation of what's associated with this address. Where is it? There it is. Right, with this address on the blockchain, it currently holds these UTXOs. All right, so there is the full representation of this wallet right now. It doesn't say anything historically. To go back and look at previous transactions that were input or output from this address, I would have to use a GraphQL query or a Koios query or another sort of query that's built on top of DB Sync, which has the whole history of all the transactions, right? But this is right now. This is what's currently on the ledger. And the first thing I notice is that, oh shoot, I only have 10 of those assets I need. I need more of those in this wallet if I'm going to send them to, how long is my list right now? 25 different outputs, 26 different outputs. So off screen, I'm just going to send a quick transaction to this address from Game Changer. And I'm not worrying about putting this on screen right now because you will see this in an upcoming lesson or this week's lesson, as a matter of fact. All right. So I just sent 20 more of these PPBL summer 2022 tokens to this wallet right here. And when they show up, I'll be able to run this command again and I'll see them. I don't see them yet. That transaction didn't go through yet, and that's normal. Let's see how quick it is today.
Yes, actually it does make sense right now. Like
Nice.
if
All
you,
right, dude. Good. Good.
yes, like right now, like on that game changer on that CLI, like I'm able to relate some things. and I'll try myself like some transaction on game changer, and probably when we'll move on to the next week, the things will be more clearer.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? I promise you that the steps are going to start coming together little by little. Okay. But it takes a little time.
No, like even if you read that particular command that you're actually executing, that actually makes sense. Like if you actually read it, like what it's actually doing. Cardano CLI query tech, you're querying UTXO on testnet addresses of sender, and
Good.
things make sense little bit.
Good. Thanks. Good. And I'll do this again tomorrow, because I know that we're running out of time. If anybody has to leave now, that's okay. We'll see you tomorrow. And I want to do this again, right? Just to show you this. But if you can stick around, I want to finish this off. Because I need to send these out anyway, so people can see them in their wallets. I got a new UTXO right here. It has my 20 PPBL summer 2022 tokens in it. I can see this policy ID right here that starts with 13099. And I can see that it matches. I think I might have been pointing to the wrong UTXO before, because I saw 10 of these and 10 of these. It's actually this one right here. Policy ID starting with 13099, ending with 5050, right? What's the hex representation of a capital P? It's a 50. P, P, B, L, etc. Right? This is just PPBL summer 2022. And I can see I've got 20 of these here and 10 of these here. My goal is to send 26 of them. So I'm actually going to need to consume both of these UTXOs. And this is to me why I prefer this model to the account-based model. It's functional and it's deterministic, and I can only ever spend one UTXO exactly one time. And once it's spent, it can't be spent again. It creates new ones. So this is what we can do. We can say, okay, look, in order to build this big transaction right here, there's a lot of outputs that we're going to create. But my inputs are going to have to include this one right here. Let's add that as a TX in. I include the transaction hash and then the index, which is listed here. And that index is just showing us, it's distinguishing between the different UTXOs from the same transaction. Every output that we create right here is going to have a new but the same transaction hash followed by a different index that uniquely identifies it. I want this one with these 20 course tokens, and I want this one with the other 10. That's at index 1. And then, as it turns out, look, this one right here only has 1.5 ADA in it. And this one right here has 1.379, etc., less than 1.5 ADA in it. And that's not going to be enough for me to send 2 ADA to everybody. I'm going to need some additional ADA here. So I'm actually going to grab one more input. Wallets have to automate this step, right? I'm looking through my UTXOs right now and thinking about what I need. But imagine what it takes to automate this step, right? It's relatively straightforward, but you still got to do it. And one of the great challenges of dApp building right now is coin selection. There's some really interesting cutting edge work happening around coin selection on Cardano. You can Google that. And questions about coin selection go all the way back to Bitcoin. Okay. Uli, see you soon. And yeah, we'll do this demo again tomorrow and give people a chance to stop and ask questions. I'm going to grab one more huge UTXO right here that has let's just use my big one. I've got 804 ADA in this one. I can use that. That's
So
more.
actually selecting UTXOs in this particular transaction, like actually we can end our conversation here only because
Yeah.
it takes time. Actually selecting UTXOs is just an algorithmic problem, right? You select, is it good to actually select the maximum number of UTXOs so that you can reduce the number of UTXOs on an account? Like selecting UTXOs, like what is the key thing that we actually keep in mind to actually reduce the number of UTXO and keep big number of UTXOs in our account? Or it is just like randomly pick any UTXO that's there in our account that actually fulfills a transaction?
If you want to start a fight in a room full of Cardano devs, that's another question that you can ask. It's such a good one. Okay. And there's debate about those options that you just said. Well, why can't I just take all of them? Why not? Right? Or what are the options? And when you think about the options, you want to think about minimizing the transaction fee. You want to think about getting sure exactly what you need or more for the given transaction. But the best coin selection algorithms take it a step further and they think about the future state of UTXOs in someone's wallet, right? So the most popular coin selection algorithms right now are the ones that take basically all of the small UTXOs that only have the assets you need besides Lovelace, and they combine all of your small UTXOs to get, to pull the minimum number of them necessary to fulfill the needs of all of the native assets, and then just enough to cover the ADA, but ideally without using the big UTXO. So a good coin selection algorithm would definitely need to recognize these two right here, because it would say, all right, well, there's going to be this many of these outputs. I at least need to cover all of those PBL course tokens, but it probably wouldn't pick this one right here. It would be better if it took one that had just enough ADA or not too much more, something like that. And yeah, random selection is one way that this is achieved. Okay. Often the algorithm will start by taking some random set of UTXOs, and then it'll check other options against itself. And if it finds a better option, it can use it.
Yes. So basically, like when you started talking about UTX selection, like we should end it over here because it's already 9:30 actually over here.
Yeah.
So
Okay, good.
yes.
Thanks for
So
staying up late. And actually, I won't even send this transaction today. We can pick up here tomorrow and kind of go through this again and give everybody a chance to kind of see what's going on here. So this is a great place to close out for today. And we'll pick it up here tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the class.
My pleasure, Jaime. Thanks for being
Thank you,
here.
James.
And I can, if anybody else has other technical questions, feel free to hang on. Otherwise, see you tomorrow. Krish, thanks.
Yeah, I do have one.
I got you, buddy. Got you. All right. See you soon. And I'll post this recording as well on Canvas.
Bye.
Cheers.
So yes, I do have one related to, well, actually, with this, the index that you have in the last address is 0. It's not supposed to be 2. The first one is 0, the second one is 1, and the third is 0.
Very
again.
good. Yeah. So look at this. AEC 8, right? I picked that one from right here. And notice that there's actually 4 UTXOs right here that all have the same hash. And then indexes 0, 1, 2, and 4.
Right.
I chose the 0 on purpose because I wanted to take this big 804 ADA UTXO.
Okay, got it. Good. Yeah, that was it.
Cool.
I'm working on still on installing the Ubuntu.
Hey, man. The fun part is coming. This part is, I know it's exhausting, and thank you for sticking with it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for the patience.
It's good stuff.
Sure.
Is Samir still? Oh, hey, Samir. Right. Okay. So this is another debate is in the entire blockchain ecosystem. Is this actually better than the account balance model? And you're going to get arguments on both sides. I do think it's better. The main reason I think it's better is that any given transaction, because on Cardano, a given transaction doesn't need to know the full state of the ledger. It's computationally less intensive and therefore generally cheaper to publish a transaction on Cardano than Ethereum. There are other reasons too. I do think in the end it's a better developer experience, but it's also new, right? There are new design patterns that have barely been invented yet that make it a higher learning curve for people. But I think I'm here because I'm convinced that the trade-offs are worth it. And right, always, I think all of us need to be humble and say, we might be wrong. I might be wrong about that. You know, Ethereum might be way better. We might be wasting our time right now. And we're all of us are placing bets with our time right now that the tools we're working on are worth it.
Well, it's a matter of just for them to say, oops, we're in the wrong way. We are supposed to be the Cardano way and start doing what we are doing. There are too many, so they may be able to adopt faster. But yeah, I think functional programming is the way to go.
Yep, and Samir, we're going to see it evolve in real time. And there's, man, what a moment we're living in right now. Well, it goes against all of my instincts not to finish this transaction right now. Once I start building, I just want to finish it, but I'm going to hold off on this till tomorrow and we'll pick it up here.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you, James. Yeah, I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
Thank you for staying. Hey, Luis, by the way, thank you for your help with this. Restrepo has been helping me a lot with that as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, super. So thank you.
You're welcome, man. Yes, sure.
Thank you, guys. All right. See you tomorrow. Keep in touch in between now and then if you need anything.
Sure will.
Cheers.